Hello everybody and every pony. I see you guys are enjoying Night Patrol. We are on chapter 18, Assault on Rainbow Factory. Written by Foxgear, read by Icy Night. The nobles had gathered in what they considered less than a luxurious room. Of course, anything was less than luxurious, in their opinion, but the majority of them held their tongues. They were so close to their goal, immortality, and a lack of finer necessities would not have them jeopardize that goal by annoying the ponies that provided it for them. Yes, they knew they could be insufferable at times, and they had no quarrels about it. After all, what pony would dare speak against them? Well, that all changed with their improper self-exile from Canterlot. And for the first time in all their lives, they had some insight to those in need. If Hoofenstein and Madhoof went back on their deal, they would be left with nothing. No money, no social status, and no home. They had bet it all, and now it was time to see if their gamble had paid off. Some were more worried than others. Shirker Yellowblood was perhaps the most paranoid of betrayal. After all, his friend Blueblood had betrayed them, and he had been one of the most trusted ponies of their group. How could they trust Hoofenstein and Madhoof? How could they trust each other? What if only one of them could become immortal? What then? What would happen? In the far corner of the room, Violet Blood watched the other nobles with suspicion. She knew better than to let any pony here have her back, which was why she kept hers close to the wall, despite their common goal, and the fact she was the one that had pulled them into all this. She never felt any trust or companionship for any of her fellow nobles. Really, why would she? She was so much older and wiser than any of them, having lived many more lives than they could even dream. She knew their fathers and their grandfathers and their fathers and so on and so on. She knows them better than they knew themselves. Such as the fact if things came down to a fight, Red Blood and Orange Blood would team up against the rest of them, their familiar relationship binding them stronger together than the loose thread that tied their so-called friendship. Then there was Green Blood. He wasn't much of a threat. All hot air and pose usually pays some pony to do his dirty work. But well, he had no money to bribe with, so he was a goner. Finally there was Yellowblood, the pony nobody trusted. He'd be the first crack if things got hairy. Right now he was probably panicking in fear and already thinking of what he would do if he had to choose between them and himself. Which is why he didn't sleep and why they didn't either, despite how tired they were from their trip. The door of the room opened, revealing Madhoof. "We are ready for you. Please follow me." They followed the doctor to a large room. Inside, a group of ponies were putting the finishing touches on what seemed like 4 life-size models of Saddle Arabia ponies. Tall, slender, and powerful looking, with a few extra features, such as horns and wings. This is Project Simplonier, Madhoof announced. The key to your immortality. These armors are made of the strongest alloy ever discovered. Orkglium. Nothing can break it. Well, almost nothing. And how are these armors going to make us immortal? Yellowblood asked suspiciously. You were supposed to be finding a way to make us into alicorns. If Madhoof was intimidated by the noble's tone, he didn't show it. A valid point, Lord Yellowblood. However, we have yet the means to do that. So this is the next best thing, no? The better option. Think about it, my dear noble ponies. Once your soul is transferred into the metal skin of this armor, you will never know sickness, hunger, the feel of old age, and you'll be immune to the passage of time. Think of it. You won't simply be immortal. You'll be immortal. Yes, that does sound rather ideal, Yellowblood said, approaching the armor. But there are only 4. Which one of us will be left out? Greenblood pointed out. Each noble began eyeing the other, looking for the weakest link. This, Vi knew, was her chance. I will opt out. I prefer to enjoy life's pleasures with my own hooves. Or rather, real hooves. Besides, unlike you all, I already have a way to cheat death. I can wait a little longer for true immortality. They stared at her like she had grown a second head. Not that she minded, these youngsters could never really understand how boring life could be when you lived as long as she has. Indulging in everything life has to offer was the best way to strive off that boredom. Being made of metal made enjoying said things hard, and there was a second purpose. But that would have to wait. Vi patted the bulge in her saddlebag distinctly, more of a self-assurance that the items she had carried for all these years were indeed safe and sound. Well, go on, get with it then, she suggested excitedly. The nobles seemed to shrug off their skepticism and enter the circles surrounding the suits of armor. We are prepared to begin, asked Wolfenstein as he entered. Vi took a few steps back to give the doctors room to do their work, but not too far. Silently, she unbuckled the strap of her saddle pack, ready to act in a moment's notice. Madhoof and Hoofstein took up their positions. Their hooves touched the ground, and the room filled with a pinkish light, activating all 4 circles at once. Vi watched as the pink stars rose into the air and slowly descended upon the nobles in their new bodies. It was in this critical moment she struck. Catch! She shouted, grabbing the items in her saddlebag with her magic and tossing them at the nobles, who dumbly turned towards her out of reflex, giving her the perfect shot. Hoofenstein gasped as 4 alicorn amulets flew through the air, each one a different shape and color, and as powerful as the one they had given to Sombra. Each amulet attached themselves to the noble's chest, just as the transmutation completed, merging flesh with metal. The light diminished, revealing the four suits ablaze with eternal fire. Ethereal fire. Each one bearing a different color: green, orange, red, and yellow. The suits moved and bowed before Vi. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. How may we be of service? Said the green maid suit. Oh, Greenblood, glad to see you finally know your place. Vi rubbed the metal horse's snout with her hoof. The other three eagerly joined in, all of them wanting a touch. That's a good pony. Don't worry, you'll enjoy being my servants. It's not like it's much different than before. Wolfenstein stepped back fearfully from his creations. They were supposed to be under his control. The nobles were only supposed to provide the life source for the armors, but to add an Alicorn amulet? How did you, Vali, have so many? Where did you get those? It took us years to find one in the ruins beneath Canterlot. How could you have 4? Let's just say I have a lot of time on my hooves, and I had plenty of bits to spend over the years. I guess having some knowledge of their whereabouts kind of handy, Vi answered. Her 4 new metal knights lined up behind her. I'm a lot older than I look, after all. Wolfenstein narrowed his eyes at the mare. How old? Now that's a rude question to ask. You never ask a mare her age, you know. The two stared down one another, each one waiting for the other to make a move. But before anything could happen, the entire factory shook. What was that? Madhoof demanded from one of the other staff members. None of them could provide answer, just as the second explosion rocked the factory. Sirs! A beaten pony yelled, bursting through the door. We have an intruder! It's number 088, and he's disabled the camouflage shield. How is that possible? How did he get in undetected? There's no time for that, Madhoof, said Wolfenstein sharply. All hosts prepare for battle. It won't take long for the princesses to find our location. Now go, go, go! Yes, sir! The pony saluted, scrambling around in frenzy. Wolfenstein marched up to Vi, staring the mare in the eye, anger burning throughout his entire body at what he was about to do. I don't know who you really are, but you now control my trump card against the princesses. So in favor of our mutual interests, I ask for your help in this grave hour. Vi waved him off. Oh, don't be so dramatic. You still have to make me a better body. You still have to make a better body for me. Think of these guys as my trump card, so that you don't try to betray me like you did the others. Deal? Deal. Now go. I think it's time I got put little Ty and Rooney to sleep for good, Vi laughed, leaving the room with her knights following behind her. Meanwhile, the mooncutter sailed across the cloudless skies at a steady pace. Up ahead, groups of Renan and Pegasi scouted for clues high above the sky, while patrols of Earth and Unicorn ponies combed the landscape for clues. Thanks to Luna's forward thinking, they managed to cover a lot of ground already searched by the earlier patrols. Now, as they caught up to the advanced scouting party, their progress slowed. Reports had to be given, troops needed to be rotated out and informed which area had been searched and which ones weren't. Along all the chaos, Luna was missing two of her best commanders, Fury and Sixes. Seems they had gone ahead of every pony else after the nobles, along with Nico Viga. While she admired their dedication, they didn't leave an easy trail to follow. "Don't worry, Luna, we'll find them," Celestia assured from her chair. Despite being the Princess of the Sun, Celestia wasn't much of a morning pony and didn't recover from all-nighters quite as well as her sister. Her eyes were still tired, opening and closing occasionally with black circles under her eyes. Even the sun seemed much duller than usual, reflecting the princess's lack of energy. Luna hoped she would be out if by the time they found the ponies responsible for their troubles. The tired princess was not an intimidating princess. "I know, sister," Luna replied, feeling equally tired, but managing to do a better job at hiding it. At least her black bags were hidden in her coat. "Gadget, any word yet?" "None yet, Princess. The forward scouts have yet to return and no signal flares have been sent as of yet." "I see. Continue to the search and keep me updated." "Of course," Gadget bowed. Luna sank back in her chair, wondering what has become of her three ponies. She swore when she found them she would punish them severely for making her worry so much. They better hope her hair didn't turn silver because of them. The sound of an alarm went off, jolting every pony out of their seat as they scrambled to figure out what was going on. Luna flew out of her chair, Celestia at her side as she peered over the radar. Only a moment ago there had been nothing. But now there was something, and it was big. "What is that?" "I don't know, Princess, but it looks like to be a mountain. Its magnetic pole must have bugged the equipment or something." Luna rubbed her chin with thought. "Stay on course. I want to investigate this mountain. Reduce speed and have weather teams 2 and 3 provide us with some more cloud cover. Get in contact with our ground forces and tell them to rally at position Bravo and be ready for anything. I got a bad feeling about this." Her mind was running so fast that Luna barely registered Celestia tapping her shoulder, till the older princess dropped her helm on her head. Covering her eyes, she lifted the offending thing from her view and glared at her sister for such silly games in a time when they need to be serious. The words died in her throat, though, as she saw Celestia strapping herself into her golden armor. "I think you'll need that," Celestia smiled, levitating the rest of Luna's armor to her. The younger sister pawed the bits of steel with her hoof. "A prediction?" Celestia shook her head. "No, just a gut feeling." "I see. So you feel it too." "Indeed," answered Celestia, pointing ahead. "I feel a massive amount of energy coming from that direction. You must too. I believe we have found our enemies." More than likely, Luna agreed, equipping her armor, checking to make sure every piece fit right and didn't bind anywhere. Quickly she muttered to herself as she inspected her weapon. There was going to be another battle, like before in the Crystal Empire. This time, though, she was ready. She had her patrollers with her. Every pony was outfitted with Gadget's latest weapon and ready for action. Still, the feeling of unease would not leave her. She had no doubt the enemy would be expecting their arrival and will be digging in for a long siege. Time would be the biggest factor. The Mooncutter could only carry so much fuel and ammo, as they had no way to resupply. Every pony was here, with a few exceptions still at the castle. But this was it. The full force of Night Patrol would fall upon the ponies of Rainbow Factory, as she intended. The ponies who dared to snatch foals and played them for fools to understand what happens when you make an Alicorn princess angry. "Object in sight," the radar pony announced. Luna's Celestia flew to the front of the Count's control deck to get a closer view from the deck's window. What they saw amazed them. It was a factory, all right, a factory built on top of a floating mountain. A clever idea, really, if it wasn't for the fact that she was going to send it plundering back to the earth. "Cannons in sight, Princess. They're preparing to fire. Arm all cannons and make a hard right and fire a full broadside, followed by a turn left for another assault. All flyers are to take off after the first barrage," commanded Luna. The ship swung right sharply, tossing every pony not prepared for it. A few blasts flew past them. They nearly avoided contact. Moments later, the sound of their cannons firing sung in the air. Half of a dozen of the ship's 44 gem cannons hit the factory. Explosions blanketed the outer steel shell as several dozen Pegasus and Renin squads took flight, each one armed with 2 hoof-mounted gem cannons, known as Hotel Mike Golf Charlie, HMGC, on their front hooves, and 1 rocket-propelled gem projectile, or missile, as Gadget called it. Luna wasn't sure when he designed the weapons or when he had the time to manufacture them, but this would be their first field battle test. She hoped they worked as well as he claimed they did. The ship took a sharp left and second barrage fire. More cannons found their mark this time, but the enemy was firing back with greater fury. Long flaming beams shot out from the base of the factory. Luna called for the telescope. "Thank you," she said, taking the spyglass in her magic. Zooming in, she spotted a familiar sight. Stone Cyclops. And very same, she thought, when she first met Applejack, acting as anti-air gunners. Their beam offered a controlled and precise attack that already claimed a few of her flyers. "Squad 3, Captain Odds. Squad 4, Captain Evans. Launch your missile volley at the Cyclops. Take them out now! Captain Ace. Fly under and see if there are any way to take out their engines, if they have any. Send word to Commander Applejack and Rawhide to begin their ground assault once the factory touches the earth." Chatter filled the channels as ponies scrambled to fulfill her orders. "Night Hunter Overheat, you are to accompany the ground forces. Emerald Cutter, join up with the triplets and Squad 2 and replace a boarding party. I want you to get inside at the first chance you get. Killing perfection, you're on standby with Renin Unit 7. Aye, ma'am, they shouted over their gem comms. And be careful, she added. All of you, be careful. Don't get yourselves killed. A few of them chuckled over the comms. More than likely, it was the Night Hunters. Should we consider that an order, ma'am? Yes, you should, Luna replied, smiling faintly. Squads 3 and 4 fired their missiles at the Cyclops. A few hit their marks, others didn't, and a close quarters combat quickly ensued. Through her spyglass, Luna watched helplessly as odds and evens squads faced off against the Cyclops. Her stomach twisted as more creatures, this time orgs, came to the Cyclops' defense. Have Squad 5 support 3 and 4, Luna ordered sullenly. Spades, what's your progress? Ace Spades, a black Pegasus with a green mane, looked wearily at his situation. In front of him were 4 big rocket-like engines similar to mooncutters, only on a larger scale. Before him, and he was at loss of what to do. His missiles have proven inefficient against the engines. They were simply too big. Progress is at a grinding halt, ma'am. We gave her everything we had and didn't scratch it. We either need a bigger projectile, or we need to manually shut the engines down from the inside. I see. What do you think, Gadget? Luna asked, looking to the mechanical-minded pony for answers. Gadget hummed, collecting his thoughts. We need to power down the engine's generator. Blowing up the fuel source would be the most effective method. We take out the engines and a good portion of the factory all at once. The problem is we need to get in there, and you see how well that's going. I think I can be of some help in that regard, a voice said over the comms. Luna, Celestia, and Gadget all turned to the radio pony, asking who spoke. The pony pointed to the 088 icon. Nico Vega! Celestia asked, remembering the Renin from the Battle of the Crystal Empire. What was he doing inside the factory? That's me. Came in looking for Commanders Fury and Sixes. Haven't found them yet, but I did found their cloaking devices thingy and took it out. Glad to see you all showed up right away. I've been ducking tail for a while now. I don't think I made them too happy with my little stunt. Luna gasped. Sixes and Fury are captured? Afraid so. I'm trying to locate them, but it's not easy. Ponies are running everywhere, and I don't really blend in very well. Hold on, communication's getting bad. The comms go silent for a solid minute. There's nothing but static. Alright, I'm back. Sorry about that. Comms been going in and out for a while. What are your orders, Princess? Should I keep looking for the commanders, or do I go for the engines? Luna bit her cheek, wishing Nico hadn't asked her that. Logically, there was only one choice to make, but she didn't want to say it. Disable the engines, Nico Vega. Sixes and Fury will take priority after that, Celestia said suddenly, surprising Luna by how calm and composed she was. She smiled down at her, a tight smile that was forced, but meant to reassure Luna that she knew what she was thinking. Roger that, I'll get right on it, Nico confirmed, cutting off the transmission. Thank you, sister, Luna whispered, for saying what needed to be said. Celestia smiled. It's what I'm here for. With a silent nod and smile, Luna returned to coordinating her troops. They needed to get to the enemy's attention off of Nico, so he could succeed in his mission, but there was only one thing that could possibly do that. As of now, Celestia is primary commander of the Moon Cutter. I'm going out to take field command, Luna declared, earning a few gasps. Killing perfection, you're my wing pony. Understood, the White Wren replied. I'll meet you on the flight deck. Luna, Celestia said, causing Luna to pause in her steps. Be safe. Luna nodded. I will. Trust me. Celestia sighed as Luna walked away, her stomach a twist of knots. I do, little sister. I do. But I still worry, she whispered under her breath. Stealing her heart, Celestia took the reins of the Moon Cutter once again. Attention all squads. Princess Luna is entering the battlefield. Keep an extra eye on her flank for me. Roger that, a herd of voices replied with earnest, warming Celestia's heart and how wonderful of ponies her sister had befriended. Thank you, my ponies. Now let's get these villains. Nico Vega ran for all he was worth, ducking in and out of the shadows, passing by without notice. Stealth was his best bet at getting to his objective as quickly as possible. He was even so thankful more than ever of his black colors. His black and gray skin and hair blended perfectly in with the shadows. Quietly, he crept along the side of the wall, past a pair of ponies standing still in the chaos. He wondered what their purpose was. Lowering himself down, he hoped to catch wind of some intel, but they were simply standing there, silent. Looking left to right for ponies nearby, he debated taking them down and interrogating them. The risk versus reward was questionable. They could know where the engine room and prisoners are, but if he could convince them to tell him, would be another story. There was also the fact that once he took them out, he would have to kill them, hide the bodies, and hope no pony notices them gone from their post. He flexed his claws, going back and forth on what to do. He looked around again for any pony and saw no pony around. It was now or never. He let go and fell on top of them before they could react. He knocked both upside the head and dropped them to the ground. Quickly he grabbed their hind legs and dragged them into the room they were guarding. Inside, Nico took a moment to inspect the room, mainly for any pony else, but also out of curiosity. Really, what could be so important that two ponies remained on guard, even during a battle? The answer was two huge test cubes with two strange-looking beasts. They looked like ponies, while their lower bodies did. The upper bodies was something he's never seen before. Maybe it was a gorilla? They sure had the muscles of one. But then they also had bull horns on their heads. So maybe they were part Minotaur? Tyric and Scorpion. Huh? Quite the names. What's this? One pastel behind the tubes. There was a sort of boot with claws on it. Underneath was a plaque that read, Use in case of escape. Oh, that sounds important. Putting the boot on, Nico was surprised to find it fit rather well, giving him a little more reach with his claws to boot. Well, I'm keeping these. Now, what to do with you two? He wondered aloud as he shook the first guard awake. The pony groaned, gradually coming back to the land of the living. He snapped away when he got a clear view of Nico, but before he could really act, he was grabbed again and forced into a chokehold, with 5 razor-sharp claws against his throat. Time to spill some beans, buddy. Tell me where the engine and prison block are, and you might get out of here alive. Go ahead and kill me now. I know there is no reason for me to live once I tell you, so go ahead and do it, the pony yelled as he struggled, waking his partner. My respect for your loyalty, buddy, he said, plunging the metal claws into the poor stallion, nearly taking his whole head off in the process. But more importantly, the blood sprayed onto the awakened guard, who screamed in horror at what probably had to be a pretty horrible sight. Dropping the dead guard, Nico caught the other before he could get more than a few inches away, maneuvering another guard so he was looking at his dead friend. 10 seconds. You have 10 seconds to tell me where the engine room and the prison cells are, or you end up like him. I don't. 8. There. 4. Come on, buddy. Not much time left. The engine room is at the base of the factory in the lowest levels. The prison is located in the middle section on the far north side where the factory connects to the other side of the mountain. Thanks, buddy. And I'm sorry. Nico plunged his claws into the pony, ending him quickly. He then dragged the bodies to the very back of the room and found a mat to place over the blood. It wasn't a very good cover-up, but maybe it would buy him some time if some ponies stumbled inside. Now, how to get down to the lower levels? Better yet, where was he even at? There was no number on the walls or anything to really indicate if he was in the higher levels or lower levels. He hadn't been paying attention after he stumbled upon the cloaking device and blew it up. They were given a good chance and did manage to corner him for a few seconds. He wondered how long it would take for another squad to pick up where their comrades left off. Maybe I can find some stairs, or... There he is! Crud! Looking around for anything that could help him, Nico spotted a vent inside and dived right in. The vent was big enough for a pony of his size to fit. Sometimes being on the smaller side had its perks. Well, at least I'm going down. Maybe he'll stumble on the engine room, like he did with the cloaking room. He seemed to have a strange sort of luck for his sabotage stuff. After traveling downwards for what seemed like forever, Nico finally came to the end of the tunnel. Literally, and lo and behold, the engine room. The vent must supply air to the lower levels, kind of like in the moon cutter. Peering through the grates, Nico examined his target, which from the size of it would take more than some lightning breath to destroy. If complete destruction wasn't possible, the next best thing was disabling. A machine with this big had to have a lot of working parts. parts that needed to work or nothing would. Gadget said something about generators. Like those over there! Breaking the gate, Nico flew up to the ceiling to get an overview of the engine. There were 4 big generators, all set on the grid from the looks of it. From what he could tell, the generators were set up in a vertical style versus the moon cutter's horizontal. Nonetheless, it seemed they were to use gem-powered engines. You'd have to bring that up to Gadget after this was all over. However the case, the best way to take out a gem engine was to take out its cooling gems. Once again, going to the moon cutter's design would most likely be a blueprint set of gems. That looks about right. Nico flew over to the large tower engines, ducking below a large gem spinning at high speeds, and came to a stop at the smaller head-sized blue gems below, which sure enough were producing a large amount of Arctic air to keep the gem above cool. Reaching in, Nico snatched one of the blue gems and ate it. Instantly he felt a chill down his spine as the blue gem's spell was absorbed into his body. Expanding his chest, Nico felt the stinging sensation of cold ice travel up his throat as he unleashed a stream of sub-zero ice breath upon the machine. Everything came to a grinding halt, frozen in ice, and with a little tap of his claws, the machine shattered to pieces. Immediately, the other engines began working harder, trying to make up for the lost engine. But this caused the rotating gems to spin faster, making them hotter. So hot, in fact, that the cooling gems couldn't keep up. It wasn't long after that a second engine blew, and then the third, and now everything felt like it was falling. Time to go. Nico took off just as the factory made contact with the ground. Outside on the ground, Applejack and Rawhide were huddled in their foxholes with every unicorn and earth pony and the heavy infantry and scouts. Attached to their hoof was Gadget's newest toy, the hoof cannon. The thing was made with the same idea as her greaves, but simply focusing on their earth pony magic. She could create a small orb of magic and fire it. The hoof blaster didn't have the stopping power as the ship's cannons, but it would take a pony down. The downside was it took a full 5 seconds to charge a lethal shot. Anything less was just a love tap. This made the rate fire pretty low, and if you fired it too often and too fast, it overheated. Still, it was nice to be able to attack from afar for once. She kept her greaves on though, knowing eventually things would get up close and personal. "Look alive! We got incoming!" Rawhide shouted. As the factory fell to earth, Nico must have done his job. Hopefully he and the others inside were alright. The factory landed pretty hard. Dust kicking up from the landing obscured their vision, and for a moment everything was silent. Applejack peeked up out of her hole, her cannon humming softly as she powered up a blast. All around her, ponies emerged, doing the same. Through the dust and smoke, they spotted figures rising up off the ground. A moment later, beams of fire slammed into the defensive positions. Return fire! The sound of hundreds of hoof cannons going off at once was deafening. Glowing orbs of magic flew into the figures, creating screams of pain. It wasn't long that the enemy returned fire. Beams of fire blast from unicorn horns and cannons echoed, and then there were the howls. Peeking over the defenses, Applejack spotted the familiar sight of dire timber wolves charging at them. Their white bark skin covered in ice sent chills down her spine, and she remembered her last encounter with them. "Don't let those things get too close! Use alternating volley fire!" she shouted, taking a shot at the hooves, only to miss. That was the third problem with these things. They were more guessing than actual aiming at anything further than 20 feet. Sure enough, one of the wolves was close enough they could quickly take down by a barrage of cannon fire, their wooden bodies bursting into flames. Now they were back to the start. They firing blindly into the enemy ranks, unable to advance due to the enemy's more accurate fire, but the enemy wasn't willing to advance into their fighting range. "We need air support," Applejack grumbled into her gym communicator, only to get a bunch of static. "Every darn time! You got any ideas?" Rawhide peered over the battlefield. On top of the factory were a barrage of anti-air fire, what was possible, keeping their units from descending. Of course, they could fall back and join up with them from behind, but that would only ground the air units. In the middle section of the factory, more stone golems were lined up, firing into the sky at the moon cutter. There were also a horde of orgs forming at the base of the factory. There would be a tight pinch very soon if they didn't do something. "Well, we could dig a tunnel," Rawhide suggested, anticipating Applejack's "Are you kidding me?" look. He shushed her, picking up his pickaxe and infused it with his magic. One mighty swing and he already dug 5 feet into the ground. "Dirt's pretty soft. I used to blow through 2 feet of rock back in the day. I'll have us under them in no time." "Alright then, you get digging. I'll keep things going up here. Signal me when you get to the enemy line. Hopefully the moon cutter can get low enough for Overheat to jump down and join us." "You just keep your head down and keep those monsters at bay. I'll be right back." Rawhide grins, giving Applejack a quick peck on the cheek. He dug into the earth with vigor, disappearing into the darkness of his tunnel in only a few seconds. "That's very unprofessional," Applejack called down, blushing. "Silly stallion never is serious when he's supposed to be," she grumbled, firing at the enemy. Sixes got up with a groan. If he had to guess, he would say Luna and the others arrived. Still, he kind of wished they would have waited a little bit longer to send them crashing to Earth. Preferably after they got them out of here. Speaking of which, these prison walls were tough. Though being made of solid mountain rock did make a good prison wall. "That would be our friends," he said, looking to the elected leader of the imprisoned ponies. Shadow Spectre was what he called himself. He claimed to be sort of a ghost pony, but was unable to validate his claim due to the collar blocking his magic. Are you still hesitant about escaping? Since their reintroduction with their former cellmates, Sixes and Fury had learned a lot about the factory, such as how long they had been operating and how many experiments they've conducted. The 150 Renin ponies that Fury and he had been a part of were one of a few mass production experiments. Most ponies here in the prison were specialized experiments. Some one of varieties of normal ponies, like the giant pony, P. Rex, and the Shadow Spectre himself, along with a few more monster ponies similar to Overheat and Emerald Color. Altogether, they numbered about 100. Their numbers varied from as low as 004 to as high as 9989. Other than the 150 Renin, all other experiments were failures, in which the project subjects died, leaving a grand total of 250 successful experiments. Well, 251 now. It's not that we don't want to escape, Sixes. Of course we want to, but Shadow Spectre hesitated. We tried before and failed. These colors don't just block our magic, they also act as a sort of anti-riot device. If we get loose, it only takes a single charge of a horn to have us on our knees. Let me tell you from experience, it's not pleasant. So we get these collars off. You'd fight? Fury asked, making Sixes wonder what his friend had in mind. We'd follow you with vigor right into the mouth of hell itself. Well then, Fury said, expanding his chest. Guess it's up to me then. Fury, what are you doing? Sixes demanded, as he watched his friend try to summon up his fire breath. Steam blew off the red Renin's body as his scales cracked. At this rate, Fury would explode. Fury, stop! Fury! Liquid fire fell from the Fury's mouth as he smiled, his entire body engulfed in flames. I'll see you in a few minutes, he said, make sure you move the collar. I hate to do this again. Right before Six's very eyes, Fury erupted into a column of fire and crumbled into ash, the metal collar ringing as it rolled across the stone floor. Luna led the charge with Killing Perfection and the Renin triplets. Terrifica, number 301, Trinity, number 302, and Thrice, 303. They were called the triplets. Well, because they all looked the same. All three spotted the same gray-blue coat collar, silver mane, and stood at the same height. Overall, they made an effective team. As she and Killing Perfection flew in to try and enter the enemy stronghold, the triplets provided cover fire with their hoof cannons, blasting away at the line of stone Cyclops. Orcs quickly filled the void, swinging clubs and such at them. Luna wasn't in the mood to play and grabbed the orcs with her magic and threw them off the side to the ground. It was a long way down. With her hooves on the enemy base, Luna felt a brief moment of triumph. Working quickly, she and Killing Perfection sent the rest of the monsters on the platform to a quick and timely dismaze, via pushing them off the side. They were about to clear the other platforms when half a dozen unicorns rushed them. Pulling her star blades from their holsters, Luna met the unicorns head-on with killing perfection, quickly finding out something was different about them the moment one slipped through her defenses and got a hit on her breastplate, denting it. Luna wheezed as the dented metal pushed on her lung, restricting her breathing. KP rushed from the side, tackling the pony that dare hit her and sent him flying to the side of the factory. The shouting hiss of her swords being drawn filled the air as the white Renin mercilessly craved her way through 5 remaining ponies. "Are you alright, Princess?" she asked, dragging Luna to the corner of the platform, keeping one eye trained on the door leading inside as she worked to get the princess' breastplate off. Luna pushed her away before she could, though. She stepped back, allowing the princess to stand on her own hooves as Luna used her magic to remove the dent in her armor. "I'm fine. They just took me by surprise is all. I never expected a unicorn to hit that hard. It was almost like taking a kick from Applejack." Though Applejack never tried to kill her, if not for her armor and the tough material it was made out of, she'd be breathing through her chest right now. "I fear I may have underestimated them. I thought they were the science type like Gadget and would be lacking physical department. But I was proven wrong. I'm sorry, Princess," said Killing Perfection. "I should have paid better attention. It's my fault they got so close to you." Luna waved her off. "Think nothing of it, KP. One should guard their own life on their own. Relying on other ponies to do it for you only weakens one's own survival instincts. Let us take this lesson with a grain of salt and move on from here." "Understood." Luna nodded and retrieved her gym communicator. "This is Princess Luna. We have secured a foothold. I repeat, we have secured a foothold. Send down the assault teams." "Roger that. Emerald Cutter and her squad are on her way down," the radio pony replied. "Shall we secure the other platforms then?" Luna grinned mischievously, lighting up her horn. "Already got them done, Princess." Luna and Killing Perfection ran to the edge of the platform to see the triplets each holding their own cleared platform. A few moments later, diamonds rained down from the sky, wiping out the enemies on the platforms above, announcing the arrival of Emerald and her team. "Sorry we're late, Princess. We got dragged this lug with us," the Emerald joked, pointing to Overheat. The fiery monster pony gave a salute before jumping off the crystal pathway Emerald was making for the land units to travel on, hopping down to the lower platforms, leaving a fiery trail in his wake as he made his way to the ground to support Rawhide's and Applejack's forces below. "Alright, let's move out," Luna commanded, once every pony was on the platforms. Together they entered the enemy's stronghold. Once inside, they broke off into 3 teams, one led by Luna, one led by Emerald Cutter, and one led by Killing Perfection. Their mission was to subdue all enemy combatants by whatever means and take the upper, middle, and lower levels. Luna took the middle, while Killing Perfection took the upper, and Emerald taking the lower, each one with their own 5-pony unit in their command. As the hoofsteps of others disappeared in the distance, Luna prayed for their safety. More ponies would be joining them soon. The triplets would keep their foothold secured for the other units, yet despite everything going their way, the twisting knots in her stomach did not leave her. The inner corner of her mind, she knew something was wrong. Very wrong. She just didn't know what. "It's kind of quiet," one of the ponies behind her said, making Luna stop in her tracks and take a look around. There was nothing here. No ponies. No monsters. Nothing. "Princess, shh!" she demanded with her hoof. Closing her eyes, she stomped her ground on the metal floor, using her oath pony sonar to find anything at all. For a long time she felt nothing. Then suddenly, at the very end of the sonar range, something appeared, and it was getting closer. Its hooves clanged on the metal floor, loud like thunder, the noise deafening in the silence of the darkness. And from the darkness emerged a pair of glowing yellow eyes, followed by a long metal horn. The thing was massive, at least a head taller than her. It was a horse, a metal horse. "Hello again, dear princess of the night. How are you today?" "Yellow blood?" Luna gasped, recognizing the noble's voice. What happened to you?" The metal monster laughed. "I have given up my fear and have ascended to a higher plane. I am no longer afraid of you and your sister, of the insufficient power you hold. I am beyond you now. I will prove it to you now, by killing those slacks for flesh behind you." "You will do no such thing." "Really?" Yellowblood chuckled, his horn engulfed in yellow flames. "Try to stop me." Luna lurched forward, her star blades posed to attack as Yellowblood's magic flowed around her. Only when it was too late did she realize her mistake. Her blades bounced harmlessly off the metal stallion's coat as his magic attacked the ponies behind her. She turned foolishly, giving her back to the enemy, as she saw all 5 ponies fall to the ground with spears of light buried in their chest. Tears strained her cheeks as she turned to the metal pony, laughing behind her, the shadows tensing around her in an angry frenzy. She screamed at the top of her lungs. Magic gathered around her hoof as she struck with all her might. Yellowblood met her, their hooves slamming together, creating a shockwave so powerful it rifted the floor beneath them apart. They fell into the darkness below. Ooh. We just have to wait for chapter 19. Hope you guys all have a wonderful night. With finals out of the way, I'm sure there's going to be more chapters in the future. Also, just want to let all the fandoms know, especially the Brony fandoms, December 17th is Hearthwarming Eve, and I just would like to know what you guys will be up to on that day. I, for one, will be on Facebook doing 3 My Little Pony songs, Christmas pony songs, in American Sign Language. I will also be posting them here on YouTube for you guys to see as well. This is Icy Night, wishing you all a blissful night.